Hey, Forrest here. Nothing like getting paid. And with ICCU's mobile app, I can deposit checks or accept Zelle payments so the money hits my account fast. I just wish there was an app for mowing the rest of these lawns.
Right now, Lithia Ford of Boise is buying used vehicles. How much you want for the SUV?
I don't know.
Well, Lithia Ford will give you more than that.
How much more?
More than you think.
I'm not thinking anything.
I'm thinking you might get even more than that. See how much more you can get at Lithia Ford of Boise.
When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. RowPaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Joining BJ Rains today is KTVB Sports Director Jay Tust. Check him out on Twitter at KTVB Sports Guy and make sure to check out KTVB.com. Now, here's Jay Tust and BJ Rains with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Hey, how we doing, Boise State fans? Happy Tuesday to you here, Bronco Nation News Live, BroncoNationNews.com, as always presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. Check them out online, ROEPaint.com. And it's Tuesday, so we got Jay Tust joining us today. Jay, what's up, man?
How's it going?
It's going good, man. One of those weird weeks here where there's no game. We do have some big Mountain West games that we'll touch on tonight. Obviously, you got Nevada at New Mexico. You got Utah State at San Diego State tomorrow night. But Boise State gets to relax and try to heal up and rest up after a tough one a few days ago in San Diego.
Yeah, I think the stuff finally hit the fan. Let's just say that. It's not often that Boise State suffers that type of defeat, man. It just isn't. In fact, every single Mountain West team lost to another Mountain West team by double digits in the span that Boise State did. So it's just not often that they get blown out. And, you know, it's kind of funny. You look at the circumstances on Friday, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's kind of easy to see why it happened on that given night in San Diego.
No doubt about it. And, being there courtside at Viejas Arena, it was a crazy atmosphere, as it usually is there. The show, as they call their student section, brought it with some nice chants and signs and things. And when you have a freshman point guard, struggling to get the ball across half court, and the students are right there by the Boise State bench, they were getting into it, and it just kind of snowballed pretty quickly on Boise State there in the first half. It was a 27-4 run to put them up by 19.
Yeah, Boise State went something, BJ, like I think it was 726 days between double-digit losses to a Mountain West opponent. If you want to look at the last 2 years combined, they have one defeat by 10 or more points to a Mountain West team, tied for the fewest in the conference with San Diego State. After that, you drop down to Wyoming, who has 4. San Diego State and Boise State each just have one. The funny thing about it, though, is that Boise State has handed 8 other teams in the conference a double-digit loss during the last 2 years. So they're often doing the blowing out versus it going the other way. So
any concern?
Tough game.
Any concern, big picture? A lot of fans were already talking NIT and really starting. And you look today, they're now in the last 4 in on Joe Lenardi's bracket all of a sudden. So you got to get Marcus Shaver Jr. healthy. But if you look at, as I was saying with Johnny yesterday, you look at the Ken Pom projections. Obviously, that's with a healthy Marcus Shaver, but they're projected to win the next 6 games still before they finish the season at Utah State. If they can take care of business in the 4 home games, find a way to win at Colorado State and San Jose, which again, that's a lot easier said than done for all of that. They could still end up with, if they lose at Utah State, just say they could still theoretically end up with the exact same record they had going into the Mountain West tournament last year at 24-7. A lot has to happen. I'm not sure that probably does happen. If I'm guessing, I'm just saying it's probably, maybe 23-8 Maybe you lose one other game at some point in there. I'm not sure you get New Mexico and San Diego State at home. You'd like to think so. Or maybe, but you really have to avoid the quote unquote bad loss. Can't lose to Wyoming on Saturday. Really can't lose at Colorado State, which is going to be a little tougher, I think, with the way they played home. The San Jose game is not going to be easy, but you can't really afford to lose that one either. So any big picture concern here? Or
I think the big picture concern is you mentioned those two teams after Wyoming. I mean, Wyoming's dangerous just because, again, if and when they magically get healthy, who knows the timing of that, they'll be as good as any team in the league. So it's like you can't really just completely overlook that. But you mentioned that, BJ, the upcoming stretch: Wyoming, Hunter Maldonado, Colorado State, Isaiah Stevens, and then after that you mentioned San Jose State on the road, and you have Amari Moore. I mean, those are three of the best point guards in the league, and your own point guard is banged up, and so it's going to be this whole thing hinges on Marcus Shaver Jr.'s health. If he's good, you're good. If he's not, you're worried. And I think it's as simple as that when it comes to the outlook of the rest of the season for Boise State. It's, in all honesty, I mean, like, it's so funny. I think we kind of get caught up in the reaction on Twitter and stuff like that. Hear me out here. Hear me out. It's kind of actually cool when fans react so in such an intense manner after a loss, because it means they're used to winning, right? Like, so when they go so far in one direction or the other, I think it's just Boise State's been so good and so consistent that whenever they do suffer a loss like that, I think that there is a stiff reaction, because there is an expectation for this team to get to the NCAA tournament, just like there was last year. And so I think it means that actually that the program's in a good spot. Fans want to push this thing across the finish line, and it's just going to come down to the health of this basketball team if they can actually do that or not.
Well, we got a fun show planned for you today. We're going to talk about the defense and about Mike Burns, who the last couple of years has really charged the efforts here to get Boise State into a top 10 team. We're going to hear from Coach Rice. We're going to hear from Burns. We got a couple players with some funny stories as well. But first, do want to remind you about our studio sponsorship with Cutwater Spirits. We're broadcasting from the Cutwater Canned Cocktails Studios. More than 30 flavors of premixed premium cocktails. You can pick one up at your local gas station or grocery store. Rowpaint.com, our title sponsor, still has that offer going. As I said, 15% off. Use the promo code BNN15 when you go online there, BNN15, and you get 15% off the interior painting of your home this winter at rowpaint.com. Lithia Florida Boise, they're taking your vehicles, and again, you don't even have to buy from them. You can trade in and trade up if you want, or if you don't like any of the vehicles they have, which I highly doubt it would be the case, they'll still buy your used vehicle. So go on in there and you can get a cash offer on the spot from the appraiser at Lithia Florida Boise, and right there on Fairview. Or you can check them out, get more information online, lithiafordboise.com, and Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. Make the switch today. What are you waiting for? Their online mobile banking. It's so easy. And the Raines family, so happy we made the switch. Bronco Nation News made the switch, and all of our business accounts, our loan from our truck with Lithia Ford is right there, and it's all easy to manage money and move it around, and never been easier. Their mobile online e-branch banking. So make the switch today to Idaho Central Credit Union. You won't be disappointed. You can get more information, ICCU.com. All right, Mike Burns. I wrote a story. If you got like 15 minutes, because it's a lengthy one, you should go to BroncoNationNews.com and check it out. And I kid, it's not quite that long, but it's there was a lot to this, from his defensive background, how he got to become a defensive coach, to his principles, his philosophies, to how intense he is on the court and at practice, to and then to just his off, like Mike Burns off the court as well. He's a heck of a storyteller. He's done a lot of crazy random things in his life, and whether it be standing in the batter's box against Nolan Ryan, meeting Pele and having him invite him to watch a practice, all kinds of random life occurrences. He would ride his bike to the Seattle-Tacoma airport, and basically back then, Jay, you didn't have to go through security or anything to go up to the gate. and he told me he'd go he'd call the teams and say he was from like the Des Moines News or something, and find out when the team was landing, and he'd ride his bike down there and be waiting when they walked off the plane, and he would meet all these famous athletes and stars. And he did that with Pele one time for the New York Cosmos soccer team, and Pele invited him to come to practice the next day, and he went down there by the arena at the Kingdome, and the security guard thought he was full of crap, and Pele got off the bus and actually looked at him, remembered him, and said, come on in, and he got to come watch a practice. And he met a famous guitarist, Stevie Ray Vaughan, 2 weeks before he passed away in a helicopter crash. He was a concert promoter while he was working at a community college, Jay, so he would meet all these famous musicians and promote concerts, and he said he's seen pretty much every rock concert that there is at the Gorge Amphitheater. I mean, I could go on and on about this guy, but you look at what he's done with the defense, Jay, and it's a cool story. We're not, he's a likable guy, but the last 2 years, he's also made a huge impact on this defense.
Yeah, I think that with Burns, man, like you say he's intense, but it always seems like he's also fair. He's very engaging. He seems, defensive coaches, they have a way about them, whether it be football, basketball, anything. And they're usually kind of tough. And sometimes they can be, let's call them jerks. But he just finds a way, I feel like, to balance it all. And he's a really fun guy, I feel like. And I mean, we can talk about the wide scope of his impact, or maybe just like a specific performance or whatever, right? And like the one that stands out for me, Yuri Collins from St. Louis, right? He is one of the greatest ball distributors, assist guys in the history of the NCAA. I mean, he is that good when it comes to distributing the basketball. When Boise State played him last year, he had 1 assist against the Broncos. That is tied for the fewest he's ever had in a college basketball game in his career. And this year, when Boise State played St. Louis, they went on the road into Yuri's house, by the way, and he had 8 turnovers in that game, tied for the most he's ever had in a single game in his career. And after that one, there was a Division I basketball coach that texted me afterwards just saying, quote, "That's the Mike Burns effect." So he is really good at what he does. He gets these guys dialed in. And that was just one instance of the Mike Burns effect, if you will, that's out there.
And as I said, I've got a story up on BroncoNationNews.com. It's free for all. I took it in front of the paywall so everybody could check it out. But during the story and some of the interviews I did a portion of the interviews on video just so I could put a little package together and have some things. And here is a 1-minute clip of a couple players talking about Mike Burns, the coach, and how intense he is at practice.
We're intense in practice. I think if a person came in and watched practice, watched our defensive drills, they'd be surprised how intense he is just every day. And every day when we come in, he's yelling, trying to get us better. So I think that's why he's such a good coach too. He holds us accountable when we don't come with energy. You're going to hear from him.
He's probably the most intense coach I've ever had. He's never afraid to say what's on his mind and get up in your grill and I think that's one of the things I love about him is he always tells it how it is. It may not come off the right way always, but you get his point, and it's a big reason why I've seen such an improvement since I've gotten to college.
Just how intense he is in practice. He never lets anybody, excuse my language, half-ass, the drill or anything. He just keeps everybody accountable at all times. So I feel like that helps us a lot, and that's what makes him a good coach.
The intensity, Jay, we see it at games a lot of times when somebody will miss an assignment or something. We see it at practice. What do you make of the fiery intensity that you get from Mike Burns on the sideline?
I mean, the results speak for themselves, man. It's so funny because there are times where maybe a young guy gets in that's been fighting for minutes, and at first defensive possession down there, you can tell he does something wrong, and Mike Burns shoots out of his seat, and you're like, oh, I feel sorry for that guy. But again, I just feel like he's always pretty fair. I really do. He always has a redeeming quality. You don't only want a coach that yells at you, right? It just seems like he has a way of pressing the right buttons. And like I said, the results speak for themselves. BJ, I would argue that Burns has been here for 6 years, right?
I believe this is the 7th year.
7th year.
6th
All right.
or 7th, yeah, maybe I screwed it up.
Okay, well, either way, like that almost divides the Leon Rice era in half because this is Leon's 13th season of when Burns has been here and without him, right? And so prior to Burns arriving on staff at Boise State, I was thinking about a way to do this. Totals are kind of tough, so I'm going to go off kind of like averages and efficiency. So if we look at Ken Palm's adjusted defensive metric, which basically takes, how many points you allow per 100 defensive possessions, right? It's a way of kind of averaging that metric out of how you do basically per 100 possessions.
Okay.
And so this year, Boise State's up to 9th, right? I mean, they're one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. They were 20th last year, which I didn't think that was possible. I mean, I didn't think it was possibly better defensively than last year's team, but from an efficiency standpoint, they are better this year than they were last year. The year prior to that, they were 64th. Before that, they were 81st. They have improved, taken big time steps in each of the last few seasons, right? But since Burns has been on here, when it comes to Ken Palm's adjusted defensive metric, if you add them all up, that their average is 62nd in the country. Prior to his arrival during the Leon Rice era, they were 120th on average. So you could argue, I mean, they've been twice the team defensively since Mike Burns arrived on staff at Boise State. They ranked.
I need to go add that back into my story there. That's a good stat.
Yeah, right. They ranked in the top 100 one time in Ken Palm's adjusted defensive metric. They ranked in the top 100 one time prior to Burns arriving. They have ranked outside of the top 100 one time since he's been here. So it's just been he's done a masterful job defensively with this team.
And so I was asking some guys kind of what's the one thing that if you screw up, Mike Burns is going to be on you? Like, what's the one thing you can't screw up? And the most common theme was they called
questions.
Yeah, exactly. They called it the stick hand and like getting your hand up in the guy's face. But also here's a couple quick things about guys screwing up or messing with Burns.
Yeah, he was at the first pitch ever in the Mariners Stadium or something.
So he took Joe DiMaggio out to the mound or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how old he is. Maybe 70 or something, but he's a good coach.
I know Max mentioned the Pele story. That one's pretty cool, and just seems like he's been around every Mariner like incredible moment, like 95 with Edgar or whatever, being a little bat boy for him and riding his bike down there. He's got all sorts of cool stories. It's incredible to hear, someone who's experienced all that incredible stuff and to meet some incredible people.
Yeah, he's a completely different guy off the court, but we love him, man. Naj got his spot on. He's like an old uncle, man. Like, you could talk to him about anything. Just an awesome dude.
Okay, that was the wrong clip I was trying to play there. But that is where I wanted to segue in a minute about him off this court. But let me see if I can cue this up here when you screw up with Mike Burns.
Makes him a good coach.
Oh, man. I let a guy go right. Like, I remember Fresno State game, I let Yap go right. And, made a layup, and I run down the court, and I see Burns just, don't let him go right. Like, those kind of things. And so I know, like, whenever I mess up, I make sure not to make eye contact with him because I know he'll be red in the face and like that.
Not playing hard, not getting the stick hand up, not being locked in on defense.
He doesn't like when, like yesterday we were doing a drill and I kept stealing it. And he's like, if you steal one more time, you're running stairs. And I don't know, I just decided to steal it again. So I was like, I'll take the stair run for that. But just like little stuff like that. And then if you're not like in a defensive stance or in help, we call it the MIG, the most important guy. If you're not doing that kind of stuff, then it's gonna be a long day.
It doesn't surprise me that Max Rice would purposely steal the ball when he was told not to, and just so he could, and he knew he was gonna have to run just to mess with Burns.
I mean, he'll take that competitive fire, I guess, right?
But that is a guy you probably don't want to tick off, I guess, so to speak, on the court. But he's really made a huge difference, as you said, Jay, and a lot of it was because a couple of years ago they were kind of just I don't say treading water, but they were struggling to get to the tournament, hadn't been to the tournament in a couple of years, and they were trying to figure out like what needs to happen. And I do have a quote that we can play from Burns here in a second about it. I wanted to hear from Leon too, but he basically said he went and looked at the analytics and the KenPom numbers, and like if you finished in the top 25 in defensive efficiency at KenPom the previous 5 years, he said 96% of the time you made the NCAA tournament. And so they put the data in front of the players and got them to realize that. And the proof was in the pudding. And he also said, hey, look at the Mountain West. Look at the teams in this league. If you don't guard, you ain't winning a championship. And so they had already emphasized it, like you said, but they took it to a new level the last 2 years. And I think the players have really bought in.
Yeah, so you said top 25 in the KenPom defensively, right?
That's what Burns said. The 5 previous seasons led to 96% of the time making the tournament.
Well, last year, when you look at the Leon Rice era, they finished in the top 20 once. Last year, they went to the NCAA tournament. They're on pace to finish in the top 20 again right now. They're projected to be in the NCAA tournament. So it's pretty spot on there. And I think that we can talk about KenPom, but there's another thing that Boise State does really well too, and that's shoot the three and defend the three. And I'm gonna hang on defending the three here for a second. Boise State has an opponent 3-point field goal percentage allowed of 27.3 this year. That is third in the NCAA. That's fifth in the NCAA. The 4 teams ahead of them: Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, and Houston. We're talking about 3 top 6 programs in the country right now, and Auburn, who has been in and out of the top 25, but in the top 25 for a good portion of the season. When you look at how they shoot it versus how they defend it, that you come up with your net 3-point field goal percentage, right? And Boise State they shoot it quite a bit better than they allow their opponents to. So when it comes to net 3-point field goal percentage, right? Boise State is second in the country this year. The only team that's better is Tennessee. Immediately behind Boise State, Alabama, and Houston. Again, that's the Broncos sandwiched around 3 top 6 programs in the country. The Mike Burns effect.
Also number 6 in defensive rebounding, number 17 in an opponent's effective field goal percentage, and number 21, which Burns says this is the big one they focus on, opponents' assists to field goals made. A big thing that Boise State under Burns focuses on is giving up 7 or fewer made threes per game. They try to get up you on the 3-point line, make you make that extra pass, and then what they call is dribble it into a shot. They don't want the extra pass to lead to an open shot. They want a guy having to dribble and take a shot, which means no assist, and so there's just some small things like that. They focus on transition defense, pick and roll defense. It's a big one they really focus on as well. But I want to hear from Leon Rice. But first, I do want to remind folks, check out Ridley's Family Markets, their new app, shopridleys.com. Find one of the 13 Idaho locations near you. Download the Ridley's app and get some exclusive savings at a location near you. The Blue and Orange store. Jay, I'm heading in today to Pro Image, which is right next to the Blue and Orange store. I'm going to have to look for some new Kansas City Chiefs gear for the Super Bowl on Sunday. They have all the new Super Bowl gear for the Eagles, the Chiefs, the beanies, the hats, all that stuff. Make sure you head into the blueandorangestore.com for an online order, or the Blue and Orange store, and it's right there next to Pro Image at the Boise Town Square Mall for all your Boise State gear. If you're looking for a new job, how about check out Transportation Compliance Service, transcomservice.com. They can help you get into the trucking industry with a quick call, and that number is 866-813-7620, transcomservice.com. They can help you with all the permits, overweight permits, DOT permits, all the things you need to get out there towing that first load in no time. It's a booming industry right now with the pandemic. So if you're looking for a new job, and this could be the big rig on your screen to the Amazon truck in your neighborhood, check out Transportation Compliance Service. Let's hear from Leon Rice about Mike Burns.
Kind of got a football coach's mentality, and to be a defensive coach, I've always said this, like, you can't be a great defensive team unless you peek behind the curtain and there's a maniac on a mission, and that mission is, to be a great defensive team. And that, and that helps me so much, because then I'd have to wear another hat, because to act that way, it's got to be a consistent thing. And if the head coach is always having to do that, well, there's times when you can't as a head coach. There's time when the team needs maybe a hug. The team needs something different, and I have to oversee all that. And there's times when I jump in that boat with him, but that's the thing where it starts is, the maniac on a mission is running our defense, and because he's got to be that with me when I hey, well, we got to do this. Well, we got to do this defensively. And he's got to have the confidence and the persistence to just bang his fist on the table and we got to do this. And that's what it takes, and that's what we need.
That ended up being the title of my article, Jay, Maniac on a Mission, talking about Mike Burns there, because he did, I know everyone's got multiple personas and things like that, but the Mike Burns on the court versus the Mike Burns off the court are two certainly different things, and I think we've all had a chance to hear some of his stories or chat with him, here and there, and I got another clip queued up from Leon, but he can tell some stories too, man. That's another nice quality. But for all the last 25 minutes, we've talked about Mike Burns and what he can do on the court. He can get you to laugh pretty quickly as well.
He can, and that's what I mean. He just seems like a balanced human being, and so I think that's why he knows how to lighten the gravity of the room, if you will, if you need to, and he's entertaining as all hell. When when you walk by Mike Burns, like they're just people that you kind of walk by. And they're a little unpredictable, but like something funny, like
you're waiting for some quip.
Yeah. Like you anticipate it, right? And so he just has that about him where, like, oh, too far here, but you enjoy being around him. Like, I think it's that's just kind of a quality that he has, and I think that it's I don't think it's anything that he intentionally does. Like, it's all pretty genuine for the most part, it seems.
Yeah, and here's Leon Rice about the Mike Burns off the court.
And it's just that's the neat thing we have. We got great players that I get. We're on day. It's a grind, but I'm excited to see them today, and it's that way with our staff. I'm excited to watch the Burns Duryea sitcom. Those two are hilarious together, and that's what makes your job great. Is I talked to a former coach, a friend of mine who's out of it, and he's doing broadcasting, and I never thought of this. And he goes, I'm traveling all around because I didn't realize how lonely it would be. He's just by himself traveling, where we get to all travel together and listen to Mike Burns' jokes and stories. And if we get bored, we'll prod him and get a story. And, and I don't take that for granted. And plus there's a more than 30 year friendship and loyalty and trust. There's none better than him in the business. And as a head coach, when you get a guy like that, that's a game changer. And, I have other friends that are missing that on their staff. And I don't take it for granted. I probably do take it for granted because I've known him too long, but it's remarkable to have a guy like that. And the other thing, I've always said that about Mike, is he's got a counselor's heart. He cares about his players and the kids, and he'll do anything for them. And they know that. And that's why he can put his size 14 where he needs to put it on, and they'll respond because he knows, or they know that he loves them and that he's doing it for them.
Do you have a favorite Mike Burns story?
That is like asking someone, what's your favorite movie? Well, there's 100 of them. I got you. If you gave me, you could rattle off, like I could be like an improv thing. You could say kayaks. Well, how about the time when he was secret shopping and he walked into a department store because he was there. They hired him to test their security. And he walked in and said, well, let's see what I can get away with. Grabbed a kayak and started walking out and carried it out and got all the way out of the store with it. I'm like, well, we got to revisit your security. I think I just carried a kayak out. So you could throw out another word, I don't care what it would be, and I'd have an amazing story of Mike Burns, the stuff that he's, at least I hope he was hired to be the security.
That was his story, yeah.
Yeah, that might be, maybe he added that part on in his later years.
Well, there is Leon Rice talking about Mike Burns, and yeah, that was a funny one. And when I told Burns that story was going to be in there, he's like, "How the heck did you hear about that?" So he was a little defensive, I guess, about what maybe really did happen in that story. But there is a story for everything with Mike Burns. He said when he stood in the batter's box against Nolan Ryan, he was a bat boy for the Angels. He was doing a lot of different odds and ends jobs with the Mariners, and there was a series against the Angels where he ended up being the visiting team's bat boy. So they were in Seattle, and Nolan Ryan was doing was coming back from an injury and was throwing a bullpen session down in the bullpen, and the catcher was like, "Hey kid, get in the box, help, just stand in there for him." And he middle school, high school age, whatever, had to step in the box against Nolan Ryan just to kind of stand as a guy that was, like simulate a batter. And I said, how was that? And he said, terrifying. And he said, and then it got even worse when he started snapping off the slider and the curves. But he's stood in the batter's box against Nolan Ryan, man. He's got a lot of stories like that.
I mean, that alone is a pretty epic story. I do want to say this. Burns, according to Tyson, was at the 95 Mariners playoff game. Just saying I was there too. So I just need
how about that? Wow.
Yeah, so he doesn't hold that one over me. By the way, Nolan Ryan 15th all time in hit batters in MLB history too. So good for Burns to stand in there against him.
What before I let you go, Jay, I have a short 3-minute interview with Burns, but I won't waste your time because I know you got a lot going on. Any final thoughts on the Mountain West games the next couple of days, or Boise State getting ready for Wyoming on Saturday? Because you look at the schedule here, all of a sudden, if New Mexico wins tonight and if Utah State can find a way to win tomorrow, Boise State's right back there at 3 losses in the loss column, tied for first place.
Well, one thing I wanted to say, and I know that going back to Boise State's injuries real quick, it'll be interesting if they do have them, how they navigate it going forward. I know one thing they like about this team as opposed to last year's team, we've definitely talked about this before, is they feel like this team is a little more offensively gifted than last year's team. Now, if you lose Marcus Shaver, do you kind of have to go back to like what you did last year and almost kind of playing that bully ball style defensive battles, grind them out, right? If they do, then Burns' role becomes even more paramount for the rest of the season. I will say this, though, over the last 2 years combined, they have 42 wins when holding opponents under 70 points. That is 4th most in the NCAA. So they have to go that route.
Wow.
They have done it before. But as we know, like those are games that can kind of come down to last-second shots and all that stuff, and so you really have to be on your game. Looking forward to tonight's game, Nevada going on the road to New Mexico. I think the Lobos come away with that one. New Mexico, pretty good at home. More importantly, though, Nevada hasn't been the best road team. I know Will Baker's numbers in particular drop off pretty drastically when he leaves Lawler Arena. And so we saw that in Boise. Can he have a better game against New Mexico tonight? We'll see. And then after that, Utah State's an interesting team to me, man, just because I think they're a little bit different. I mean, when it comes to, San Diego State and Boise State, they're very good defensive teams, or they definitely certainly can be. Utah State, not the best defensive team, but, man, they're a squad that if you run into them on a night where they're hot, and they can get hot, they can be a really, really tough team to beat. But due to their lack of defense at times, that can also be a little bit of a worrisome thing for the Aggies. So, but it's working our way towards mid-February. Every single game isn't just like impacting the top of the conference standings, but it's impacting at large bids. You think you've been tired of us talking about net rankings and everything so far, people? Get ready.
Yeah, Charlotte, by the way, is now a quad 3 loss. That moved them down, so now they have a quad 3 and a quad 4 loss. If South Dakota State could somehow get up and 2 quad 3s, I guess isn't quite as bad. But
that Charlotte one has just been kind of creeping on them too. That's kind of unfortunate. They just continue to slide just a little bit.
Well, Jay, appreciate your time as always. We're looking forward, hopefully, on June 2nd to seeing you back out there at Timberstone Golf Course.
Absolutely. Look out for Burns' tee shots, though, everybody.
Speaking of Mike Burns, yeah, he was out there last year, and we'll see if we can get him back out there again as well. But, Jay, appreciate your time, man, and, again, hope to see you on June 2nd, and we'll see you on Friday as we get set for the Wyoming game. But June 2nd is the Timberstone Golf Course, second annual Bronco Nation News golf tournament. Go ahead and check that out. We'd love to have you save the date. We're going to be putting the things on sale for that here in the near future. We are going to hear from Mike Burns in just a minute, but I want to remind you about a couple of our sponsors. Bauscher Real Estate, BauscherRealEstate.com. Check them out. Number 1 ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley is Bauscher Real Estate and Matt Bauscher. No home is too big or too small for Matt and his team. Make sure you check them out at BauscherRealEstate.com. Looking for a new dentist? How about Boise Dentistry Co.? Check out BoiseDentistryCo.com. They got full family dentistry, so they can help your kids, your parents, or whoever. Full family, aunts, uncles. BoiseDentistryCo.com. Full family dentistry and wellness. They have the newest technology, a friendly staff. Find a location near you at BoiseDentistryCo.com. The Rains family has made the switch, and we are very thankful for Dr. Minert and his staff at Boise Dentistry Co. Looking for commercial insurance? I'm sure you are. We got a lot of business owners that watch the shows here. United Commercial Insurance can save you hundreds of dollars on your business insurance with a quick call. 229-8222. At UnitedCommercialInsurance.com, they can write business policy insurance in 44 states around the country. So make sure you check them out at UnitedCommercialInsurance.com. Let's hear from Mike Burns. Mike Burns, Boise State. We've talked about for the last 30 whatever minutes here about Mike Burns. Well, I sat down with Mike Burns and I wanted to hear a short interview with him about how Boise State is doing so well on defense.
It's been awesome. I mean, this is obviously it's a different group from last year, so there was a learning curve for some of the younger guys, and most importantly, what's great about our group is we've got a combination of character and toughness that allows us not only to be good basketball players and execute a defensive or offensive game plan, but these guys allow themselves to be coached and they embrace coaching. And when you get a group that's simultaneously talented, tough, and possesses high character, and they're going to embrace the plan, it in a lot of ways doesn't matter what that plan is, that group's going to have success. And so we're blessed with a great group in that regard.
Well, how does it feel for you personally to put so much time and effort into the defense and see it paying off on the stat sheet and in the win column and stuff?
Well, I mean, it's a collaborative effort. I that's my side of the ball, obviously. But it's not like I walk in every morning and say, this is what we're going to do, and there's no discussion. I mean, the greatest part about being a Bronco and working here for Leon Rice is that, there is a certain amount of autonomy that you get, to do your job. But at the end of the day, everybody works together. And so everything that we do is a collaborative effort. And it's, in a lot of ways, our coaching staff does what we want our team to do, and that's play together. And I think our players pick up on that collaboration because they see Coach Rice, from the top down exhibiting that behavior. And so it's very easy for them to also, do that on the floor because the example's been set by the coaching staff.
I guess you can lump in last year if you want, but if you want to just focus on this year, you can. Well, what's been the key? Why is the team doing so well defensively as they are?
We've made an emphasis, a greater emphasis, I think. One of the things we did, analytics being what they are, we went back and we started, I took the Ken Palm numbers going back 5 years prior to last season because it was like, what can we do to help this team get over the hump? And there was, you sift through all this data, all these numbers, and there was one thing that really resonated with me and with our staff is that, if you end up in the top 25 of the Ken Palm adjusted defensive efficiency number nationally, if you're top 25 in that number, you got about a 96% chance of going to the NCAA tournament. So for us, it just made a lot of sense. We had kids that were committed and tough. And again, last year's team like this year's team, I think two of the traits that you can always bring, that come to the forefront are character and toughness. And so we showed it to our guys, if you're willing to do this and put the effort in there and embrace the coaching and be great at it, it's an avenue, a vehicle that can get you where you want to go, get us where we want to go. So that was a huge part. And then, with all of that, I mean, you've got to do the things on the offensive side of the ball and the rebounding. So all of those things are mixed into that pot.
Well, there he is, Mike Burns. And again, I thought, kind of with the no game this week, kind of the bye week, it was a good time to kind of do something a little unique. And I thought Mike Burns deserved a little love for the defense. Number 9 in the country in defensive efficiency. Last year, they finished number 20. And Mike Burns was quick to give a lot of the others credit. He didn't want to take the credit. Didn't, at first wasn't crazy about me writing the story. But I hope you go to BroncoNationNews.com. Please read the full story. It's a fairly long story, but I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think it turned out pretty well. And happy for someone like Mike Burns to get some deserved credit. The head coach gets the big paycheck and a lot of all the money and does all the press, but a lot of times it's the assistant coaches and the recruiting coordinator and the director of ops and all those guys that are helping things go behind the scenes. And so Mike Burns has done a heck of a job with the defense and deserves a lot of credit. So Maniac on a Mission is the headline of the story. How intense assistant Mike Burns has Boise State's defense among the best in the country. So hopefully you'll go check that out. And I would appreciate you reading that. And while you're there, maybe consider a subscription to Bronco Nation News as well, $6.99 a month or a $70 one-time fee for the full year. And if you sign up for the yearly one, you get a T-shirt and a couple other free things as well. So don't forget about our app, the new Bronco Nation News app. We would love to have you download that. It's free, and it's in the App Store or Google Play. So it's a free app, and that takes you right to the website, and you can watch all the videos and live broadcasts and read all of our stories and things right there from the app. So make sure you do that. And if you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. We would love to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're building that up. You can turn on notifications so you know when we go live and not miss any of our broadcasts. YouTube.com/Bronco Nation News is where we put all of our shows, but also all of our press conferences, a video, all of our highlights, all of our interviews. All of our Boise State content is going up on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Bronco Nation News. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, we please ask that you go subscribe to the YouTube channel and start watching the broadcast there, as it is the easiest way for us moving forward to continue these live broadcasts and such. So that'll do it for today's show. We're going to be out at softball practice today. Colin Mitchell and I will be out getting some coverage of Boise State softball ahead of their first game on Friday. And Justin Schultz, the head coach of the softball team, will join me live on tomorrow morning's show. So looking forward to that. We'll have Justin Schultz. We'll talk some Mountain West basketball, of course, but we'll talk a little softball as well on tomorrow's show. And then Thursday is women's basketball. Thursday night, we'll have some coverage of that. And then Friday, obviously, Friday is going to be a basketball show with the game against Wyoming on Saturday. So a lot going on in Boise State athletics. And here at Bronco Nation News, we try to cover all the sports, not just football and men's basketball. So hopefully you're appreciating that. And as I said, $70 for a full year, $6.99 a month. We'd love to have you sign up for a subscription and get access to some exclusive content and deals and coverage. And we would really appreciate that. And one of those exclusive deals is a discount to the golf tournament. So if you're a subscriber, you get a discount to the golf tournament on June 2nd. So if we can get enough foursomes, we're looking to do a morning and an afternoon session. So we may give you the option of starting early in the morning or starting, early afternoon if you want to work a half day or something. So we're going to see if we can make it an all-day event out there. And if you want to play twice, you can play twice. Just pay twice. Pay in the morning and then pay and play again in the afternoon. So if you want to play 36 holes and get, twice the fun. So appreciate everybody for checking us out. That'll do it for today's show. Again, we'll be back tomorrow with another morning show. And if any other news happens or news breaks, we'll be back to give it to you at BroncoNationNews.com. And again, please go to BroncoNationNews.com and read my story on Mike Burns, Maniac on a Mission, how intense assistant Mike Burns has Boise State's defense among the best in the country. I spent about 3 weeks working on the story to give you an inside look at Mike Burns and who he is as a person and as a coach. And I think it turned out really well. So hopefully you will go and check that app. So Kurt says, excellent app. So thank you, Kurt. Glad it's working out pretty well for you. So thanks again. Go download the app. Go subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube for free as well. And we'll talk to you later. Bronco Nation News Live, BroncoNationNews.com.